Okay, everybody, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Britt. Order. All right, thank you, everybody. Britt was the Assistant Director for Geomatics Extension at the University of Florida's School of Forest, Fisheries, and Geomatics Sciences. Her efforts focus on providing workforce development resources for the surveying and mapping and geospatial analysis communities. This includes education and outreach efforts to expose youth to geospatial careers and technologies. Please welcome Katie.
Thank you. So this is not a very technical presentation. This is much more just kind of some of the ways that we've been engaging youth and using user groups and things like that. We've had a lot of success with this through a few different audiences specifically. So I'm going to share some of the things that I've been doing and people I've been working with, and then also maybe have some time for questions at the end. So first of all, the Geomatics Extension Program is part of the University of Florida's extension program. As a land-grant university, there's a partnership between federal, state, and county government to provide education to stakeholders and taxpayers everywhere. So this is basically things like outside of just pursuing a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree. The goal is to make those educational resources that are available because of university efforts available to taxpayers, to anyone in the state. So this office that we're currently in is an extension office. We are in the Pinellas County Extension Office, and they do a lot of things like if you have a question during lunch, if you have a question about why your grass is dying in your front yard, go out to the table out there and ask them. They do a lot of youth education, community health. There's a lot of really good things that go on through the extension offices. They're kind of little hidden gems. And so it's a really great resource, and it's really great for us to be able to participate through this to basically educate the community and stakeholders and provide continuing education credits to people already in the workforce, but also to provide education to people who maybe aren't aware of what we're doing. So we're doing workforce development outside of traditional degree programs, and part of that does include trying to kind of reach the next generation of geospatial professionals. There's a lot of kids who don't know about jobs with maps, and we found that this is not always included in STEM education as much as we'd like for it to be. So that's something that I'm working on trying to change. So we are trying to promote the visibility of the profession, bring more youth into the geospatial fields, and we're trying to do this strategically so that it's not just kind of playing whack-a-mole and going wherever, but actually thinking about ways to be effective, maximizing impact, getting in front of as many kids as possible, leveraging existing audiences, and then creating resources that you may be able to use in the future if you have similar things that you want to do. So we're trying to avoid reinventing the wheel. There's new programming and existing programming. We can create new resources for existing audiences or use things that already exist, but present them in a new way. So I'll give a couple examples of that, but one example is Boy Scouts. There's a surveying merit badge, and there's a lot of other merit badges that include mapping components, whether they're soil maps, topographic maps, things like that. These already exist. So this is something that you can either work with an existing troop and maybe do an educational program, or you can have a merit badge academy of sorts and just invite any scout who might be interested in coming. And similarly with the Girl Scouts, they have different resources, but similar. Another thing that, again, as part of extension has been really effective for us is every county has a 4-H youth education program. 4-H, how many of y'all know what 4-H is? That's pretty good. So 4-H is a great program that does a lot of different youth things, including public speaking and communication, a lot of science education. It lets kids really focus on what they're interested in, and it tries to provide an opportunity for youth to be successful in their future as a good citizen, as whatever else. So one thing that 4-H is doing right now is Beyond Ready, and that's a kind of a workforce development, trying to get kids ready for the workforce. And so that's something we've been really successful in partnering with. And I'd like to point out Emily back in the back. She's waving. She is the Pinellas County 4-H agent. So if you're interested in doing anything like this, Emily would be a great one to talk to. So I will come back to that. But one thing, you don't want to just have an event and not know who to promote it to. So you want to leverage existing audiences and support groups, including TV GIS, Women in GIS, any other any other group you may be part of. It could be your own workforce or your own workplace, but try to kind of partner those up. Avoid reinventing the wheel. You can maybe have a new wheel on an existing vehicle, but there's no need to just build the entire vehicle yourself. So look for existing audiences and programs and maybe add to them and try to do some value added for that. So again, maximizing impact. One thing that's really beneficial is looking at local issues. We had a 4-H agent. I had a 4-H agent who's a friend who reached out to me to see if we could help provide a map lesson. And she said that she was interested in tying it into the class, this 5th grade class that was learning about panthers. So that's a local issue. It was of interest to them. We made sure that we did this in the classroom. So we did a hands-on activity. We made sure that we hit some standards of learning that the teacher whose classroom we were in wanted to make sure we hit. And so we created this, we got an educator request. We kind of customized the content. We made it locally relevant. And then we kind of promoted the program, and another county also used it. However, we adjusted it so it wasn't about panthers at that point. At that point, we did scallops because this was a county that was on the water instead. So we also didn't focus on having to have Esri licenses for every kid. We didn't do this in the computer lab. We actually did this in a picnic pavilion. And so kind of teaching those high level concepts, but doing it in a hands-on way. We use transparency sheets to mimic layers in a GIS database. So think about ways that you can make this hands-on, and we even did this with 2nd graders, and it was fine because it was hands-on and we didn't worry about technical issues. We just brought transparency sheets, vis-a-vis markers, and a bunch of printouts, and we were able to create map layers and then stack them all on top of each other. So again, kind of thinking about your audience, you can make this more high-tech, more low-tech, but if you can engage those kids by being hands-on, that really helps. And again, you can do this anywhere then, not just in a computer lab. So again, by collaborating with a teacher, a local 4-H agent, bringing in another industry expert who's a aquatic wildlife expert, we were able to adapt this program and do it somewhere else as well. And then again, this is the kind of thing that part of what I'm focusing on is also making these resources available. So I'm new in this job. It's only been about a year. I do have a website. It doesn't have much on it yet, but these are resources that we're going to put there so that you can grab them if you ever want to take it to a classroom with instructions. We've got a curriculum design intern who's an education intern helping put these together so that they're tied to state learning standards, usable in the classroom, just ready to go. So here's a couple different examples. We did just recently get a grant to create a whole set of about 20 different activities and lesson plans. We have everything from fish finders and creating maps of where scallops could live. That's something you could do with, take the fish finders out, put them in the water, see how remote sensing works. You could just do the part if you're just inside of just looking at the layers and analyzing where they could live. We've got things with topo maps, reading topo maps, things like kind of like orienteering almost. We have one for habitat suitability for panthers that again had multiple layers and transparency sheets, comparing different types of maps, why different maps work for different things, what you're trying to communicate, and teaching about maps as a communication tool. And then land use change and geocaching and looking at historical imagery. These are just a few examples, but we do have a bunch more that we're working on right now. And we should have about 20 of these ready to go in the spring. The other thing that's great about this grant is we're actually creating tech kits. So it'll be a plastic tote that actually has the instructions, but also the equipment you might need. So if you want to use these GPS units, you could just borrow those and bring them back for free, again, to let teachers be able to use these quickly without having to invest their own time and money in it. And so we're going to have one of those located in our Plant City office. If anyone's ever interested in borrowing it, you can contact me and check it out, take it to a classroom, take it to a club. And again, making this more widely accessible and have all the equipment so you don't have to buy the stuff out of pocket just to go volunteer. So a few existing audiences, Boy Scouts, they have a bunch of merit badges that you can tie into. Some of them are, a little closer, like an environmental science one maybe, but some of them have one component that's a map. They have a searchable database. This is a great place to start. And one thing that I've heard from a lot of scouting parents, and it's not just Boy Scouts anymore, it's actually Scouting America. We did a surveying one and we actually had about 30% were girls who showed up, which is great. But most of the parents who showed up to this event said that they really like going to industry hosted events because they don't want it to be just another older scout teaching an activity. They'd love to hear from someone who they can actually ask about careers. And that's a big focus of a lot of the badges is like, what can you do with this as a job? So if that's something you're interested in, you have to become a merit badge counselor, but you can work through the local council, but then you can just advertise it, and just posting on Facebook a flyer is a great way to get people to sign up for this kind of thing. Similarly with the Girl Scouts, they have badges and patches. Some of the badges are for specific ages, but you can create your own patches. So you can say, well, geocaching is for 5th grade, but I'd like to do one that's a little more complicated for 8th grade as well. But you can also just make up events. You can have an event that just focuses on something you're interested in. And again, you can work with your local council for that. You can work with a council or a specific troop, but you can advertise it widely if you go through the council. 4-H clubs and camps are, again, another great way to reach youth. Again, if you're in Pinellas, I'd recommend talking to Emily. If you're in Hillsborough, Amber Norris is a really great contact, and I'm happy to put you in contact with your local 4-H agent. And I know other ones in other counties, so if you're somewhere else, you also have a 4-H agent, and they are always looking for volunteers for events, whether long-term or short-term. So they have, 4-H has clubs, which often meet after school, maybe in the evenings, sometimes at school, sometimes at community centers. They also have camps. These could be day camps in the summer, or they also have residential camps. And again, there's opportunities at all of these to do educational science related education. They also have special interest clubs. So if you wanted to do if you wanted to have one that met for 8 weeks, once a week, to actually learn how to use Esri software, that's a club that other counties have done. And again, volunteers are welcome. So if you're interested in partnering with 4-H, I highly recommend it. They're all about helping kids find their spark. And I think a lot of us have found our spark with mapping. And so I would recommend working with 4-H. Additionally, 4-H has competitions. So does FFA. There's a lot of these that have map components, whether it's topo maps, compasses, pacing, surveying. And I meant to put high school FFA competitions and 4-H. But soil maps, a lot of times the people who are leading these don't necessarily have expertise in the mapping. So if you come in and help with that, you can be a resource, an industry resource, and then again, kind of have that door open to be able to reach these kids. Another thing is the Great American Teach-In. That is something that TBGIS has been focusing on this year. I'm going to have Brooke talk about that, but I also want to pull the next slide up, which is a success story from TBGIS and 4-H in Hillsborough County. And actually, Brooke, but also Omar, who's standing right here. So I'm going to let Brooke talk about this, but this is an event we just had recently.
Thank you, Katie. Katie is an amazing resource for TDGIS. I'm Brooke Allman. We had this wonderful event. Katie, who is a member of TDGIS, put us in touch with the Hillsborough County agent, Amber. And we had a couple of planning calls. We decided what we were going to talk about. We had 3 different presenters, myself from private industry, a Hillsborough County representative, and then Omar with the drones, which is always a big hit with the youngsters. And we talked about the type of work that we do and how we apply GIS so that they knew what kind of careers were available to them, either going to college or not to college. And gave them just lots of information. We had about 10 students?
10
Yeah. And this year we're going to focus on doing an event here in Pinellas County. So, TBGIS as a conduit for, fielding professionals for these kinds of events is something that we're really working towards. And actually, we just had some TBGIS members participate in the Great American Teach-In. So lots of opportunities to, participate in your local community, tell them about GIS, what you do, and, bring the next generation up.
Thanks. So going back to the Great American Teach-In, anytime you maybe want to get into a school, if you are looking for resources, please feel free to reach out. A bunch of resources that are available. I can help connect you with 4-H. 4-H or FFA, they both have competitions. And again, if you're interested in helping with something like that, there are plenty of opportunities like that. We are creating all these lesson plans. They should be ready in the spring. They're almost ready now. I just have to buy all the stuff and put them in boxes. So these kits will be available for checkout, again, coming soon. Scouting activities, we have sort of instruction frameworks, handouts that you can use for some of these, not for necessarily all of them, but if you, create your own event and you'd like for me to be able to, if you'd like for that to be shared through, if that's something you'd like for us to be able to share as well to promote to other people, please, again, reach out. Again, we're doing a lot of things with youth. So there's going to be more resources. I do have our website up here. If you're interested, you can also email me. Please feel free to email me at any time. But yeah, these are, again, just some of the things that we're working on developing, that we have hosted, that we're going to host again, that we're trying to make bigger, to make it, again, be replicable, be able to be hosted by other people. So providing not just, here's a handout you can use, but here's things to think about as you're planning. Here's how to think about the spatial layout of your event. Just trying to make this as easy for people to use as possible. So if you do use one of our resources and you have suggestions, I would love to hear that as well. I will not be offended. So again, please reach out. Again, this is pretty short, but again, don't reinvent the wheel. Work with people who are already doing good work. Use existing activities, but add on to it. That industry experience and expertise is something that a lot of these groups are really happy to see. And it gives you a little bit of time to personalize it as well, but get your foot in the door with something that already exists. So I don't know if there's any questions. Yes.
Are you guys
yes, to a degree. I've worked on a couple of things. I've tried to work on a couple of things with them, but yeah, that's something that we are hoping to use that resource a little bit more in the future. Yeah, yeah, yes. For the kids, so that's a great question for Emily. So if you're online, what she just said, if you weren't able to hear that, is 4-H goes 5 through 18, but typically 8 through 18. FFA is typically high school or middle school, but 4-H agents, if you want to work with them, they are happy to help you make your content age appropriate and get you an audience. Yes.
You also
I have not done anything with Florida Science Olympiad yet. That would be a great thing for us to look into. Actually, I'm gonna make sure I write that down afterwards. We are doing something with TrigStar. So TrigStar is a math competition, a trigonometry competition for high schools. If you know a high school math teacher, there are cash prizes for teachers and students who win. So if you know anyone like that, feel free to reach out to me and I will get you contact, or I'll get you information to share with teachers.
Sorry,
So that would be a good one. So if you have suggestions like that, make sure you come back and make sure that I write it down afterwards. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yeah, so the question was for the Great American Teach-In, there's different timeframes that you sometimes get. So the one thing we're really focusing on with these activities in the boxes is having ones for different amounts of time. It might be that some of them can be scaled. There's an add-on, so it could be short or long, or some of them are a little bit longer, but there's usually also alternatives that are shorter activities. So at least picking from some of them, there are different times, and they're also scaled for different ages and different audience sizes. So, and even indoors and outdoors for some of them. So there's sort of all these different sort of this modular approach is what we're going for. So you can kind of pick the thing that works best for your setting, audience, and time frame. Yep. Thank you. So again, please feel free to come talk to me afterwards. Thank you very much. I just glad to be here, and let me know if you have other ideas or would like help.